Good afternoon, everybody. Shavua Tov. Welcome to a new weekend. Welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land. I'm your host, Rolene Marks, for those of you who haven't met me, and it's lovely to meet you too. And I bring you those top stories from Israel and surrounds every Monday to Thursday right here on these very platforms. So let's take a look at those top stories, and it has been quite a tense couple of days following the announcement at literally midnight on Wednesday night that a deal for a coalition government had been reached. Now, as predicted, the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, head of the Likud faction and opposed to the change bloc, is not going quietly, and there has been sort of a war of words between his supporters and supporters of the change bloc, and a lot of criticism coming against the Prime Minister for using social media platforms over the weekend to try and discourage the coalition, or to call them a con or the greatest theft. In fact, his son Yair Lapid was suspended for at least 24 hours from various social media platforms. Over the weekend, Shabak Chief Argamon, in a very, very rare speech, warned about the problem of incitement across various media platforms, including social media, and said that this is very, very serious. It needs to stop, or somebody is going to get hurt. Yesterday, in a speech to the nation, incoming Prime Minister Naftali Bennett appealed to Prime Minister Netanyahu to let go, to step down, step into the opposition, and not leave a scorched earth. There have been reports of a number of MKs from various parties who have had to have their security increased as a result of threats coming in from supporters. Now, this is not the only massively contentious issue that has been discussed over the weekend. A flag march was scheduled to go ahead in Jerusalem. Remember, just a couple of weeks ago, it was cancelled because of the security threats and the ensuing 10 days of violence. And there was a lot of discussion whether or not it should go forward, what kind of route it should take. And it has been confirmed that the police have not given permission for any marches to take place. This follows threats coming in from the Hamas faction. We are still only a couple of weeks into the ceasefire. So far it's holding, and we want to keep it that way. And of course, fears that perhaps Hamas would take advantage of the political turbulence at the moment and try to instigate or upset the deal there. It is also confirmed that we don't have a clear date for when the new government is scheduled to be sworn in. It was hoping that it would take place Wednesday this week, but it looks likely that it could take place next Wednesday, the 14th of June. What the change bloc wants is to try and get it done as quickly as possible and limit any kind of damage. In fact, they are petitioning to have Knesset Speaker, who is from the Likud faction, Yariv Levin, voted out and replaced with Miki Levy, so as there will be no interruption. So the next couple of days are pretty critical for Israel's new incoming government, and we will have to see how they play out. Meanwhile, on Al Jazeera last night, footage from when kidnapped soldier Gilad Shalit, who was held captive by Hamas for 5 years, was flighted on the news channel. Footage of Shalit sitting in his cell playing with a ball, and a second voice allegedly belonging to an Israeli soldier, but we think that this just could be manipulation tactics or psychological warfare from Hamas, was heard in the background. Now, Hamas currently still hold the remains of two fallen soldiers, Oron Shaul and Hadar Golden, and at the moment indirect talks are underway to try and work for the release of those remains so that they can come home to their families for burial. And Hamas are also holding Hisham al-Sayed and Avera Mengistu, two civilians from Israel, captive as well. The parents of both have said that the mysterious voice heard on Al Jazeera does not belong to their sons. And an Israeli official commenting on the footage that was flagged said it's nothing less than cheap and manipulative tactics by Hamas. And our last story kind of stays with Hamas and the Gaza Strip, and this time UNRWA, the United Nations Relief Works Agency, have criticized the use of their schools and hospitals, their facilities to store weapons and to fire weapons into Israel's civilian infrastructure, as well as the fact that there are tunnels underneath their installations in the Strip. They say, it is easy to know which are the UN schools and hospitals. UN flags are flown from the roof so that they are easily identifiable, and said or criticized rather the IDF for striking some of their installations or infrastructure during the conflict last month. But they did admit that unfortunately the use of their facilities as human shields is one of the reasons that they were struck by the IDF, and they very, very heavily criticized Hamas for doing so. This comes as UNRWA's director has had to flee the Gaza Strip for his interview on Israel's Channel 12, saying that the IDF tried to mitigate civilian casualties as much as possible with sophisticated and precise strikes. And he is currently in Jerusalem. He has been called in for questioning by his bosses. So very unusual to hear UNRWA being so vocal, but it is long overdue. Those are your top stories making headlines. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our content. I'm going to tell you where you can find us in a minute. You can find our website at www.layoftheland.online. There's an excellent article by Manessa Shapiro on how important words are when we are talking about the conflict with the Palestinians and how important they are in the media. You can also catch that article as well as this very brief on our Facebook page at Lottle Site. Make sure you like, follow us, share our content. Really helps us when you do. We're also on YouTube, our channels, The Israel Brief. Click on that big red subscribe button and interact with us and follow us on Twitter at Lay of the Land 5. We have a lot to say. I'm sure you do too, so don't forget to engage with us as well. So from Israel on a Monday afternoon, I wish you all a safe and healthy rest of the day. And before I let you all go, we just want to say a big Mazal Tov to a newly born rhino calf at the Ramat Gan Safari Park, they have named Ruby after our outgoing president. So welcome to the world, Ruby. We hope your impact is as positive as our president's, and that you are loved as much as he is. With that, Litraot, we'll chat again tomorrow.